Welcome to week 7 of the summer 2025 database-driven web development course. I'm Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. Today I'm going to go over the hands-on test number 3 and also the lab 0304. Them are the two assignments this week. It's the hot 3 and the lab 0304. And that one includes the Mongo search functionality. So go over some concepts as far as that as well. So, okay, let's look at the hands-on test here first. Okay, just want to make sure I'm going over a few things so you don't miss anything and miss out on points. Obviously, the hands-on test, you kind of really want to follow, it as much as possible, because there's things that got certain amount of points, and so you need to complete those things where it lists the amount of points for each task. Okay, obviously make sure you're in you save it or commit it to your hands-on test folder. Hot 3. And then obviously you want to go through, you want to follow best practices. So what you're going to be doing in this hands-on test is you're basically going to be creating a full stack web application using MERN. So you're going to be doing the front end where we do the Vite. So remember how we do Vite get latest. Go ahead and create the whole front end. And then, same thing as you've done for your final project as well, right? But you can start out creating that front end and then go ahead and add the database stuff at the root directory and just kind of follow the same way that you did your final project, okay? But this one here is going to be a web application to do with products. So you're just it's not too long, but it does, it's going to take some time. It's I guess a 4-page thing here. And it's going to include making sure that, you kind of we're kind of reviewing all the things we've done to this point. You're going to be using Joy as well to validate, your async await. Make sure you're using your status codes. Okay. So here you're going to create, actually, there's a UML document here. And so you're going to create this for the in the Mongo, right? You're going to go ahead and insert documents for your product. So that'll help that. So let's look at that real quick here first. Let me see what I got here. I don't want to miss anything. So obviously, I'm not sure why it really says config here, but you want to use a .env file, just like we've done for the final project. The labs that are kind of build upon each other for the final project. Your .env, you're going to use some debug statements. You want to have a port variables, okay? Use obviously MongoDB and Postman. So for your products thing, what you can do here on that, you're going to want to go ahead and populate your database with a list of products. You can do that by hand if you want. Another thing is there is a website called Mockaroo, which you can use to create data. If you use this, make sure when you do this, make sure that you go ahead and, choose JSON format here. Let's see, I guess that's our options. So JSON format. Another thing you can also do is just using a large language model. I don't know, people use some use ChatGPT. There's, multiple different ones people are using. This is Gemini. So what you can do on this here is just go ahead and I created a prompt here. So I'm saying generate a list of 10 random products with the following fields to be used to insert into MongoDB using insert many command. Name description, category, price. I think that's correct. Let's make sure. Oh, wrong thing. Name, description, category, and price. Obviously, the ID will be created dynamically, and or you know you can create your own ID. You can put your ID in there if you'd like to put in your ID in there. Otherwise, name, description, category, and price. Created on, so that you can basically do within your code. That's not necessarily a past parameter. Created on date, and it could be called different things. You might use, just like there's flexibility there for for the final project. Here you pretty much need to follow what's here. So use it created on date, and then your last updated date would be, or last updated on would be the first time you insert it would be the same. It would equal the created on date, right? Then any subsequent update, obviously the last updated would be changed, right, to reflect the current submission. But back here on Gemini, so I'm going to generate a list of 10 random products with name, description, category, and price. Hit submit here, and here's basically the things, and I think down here will probably, no, but you can take and use this and insert many, right? So you can use that to insert many. And just one way to do that, okay? Just one way to do that. Here I'm, doing 10 different ones, yeah. So you should be fine, I guess, with that. So that's one thing, one way to do that, create some data for your database. And, please make sure that when you do this, you're going to be using your existing cluster. You don't need to create a new cluster. You just create a new database just for the product, right? But make sure that you include your .env file with the access, everything. So when I go ahead and grade it, it has access to the MongoDB. As a quick review here so just to review status codes, so saying using 200, 400, 404, and 500. So 200 is obviously an okay, it's good, right? We have a 400 is basically a bad request. That's your sending the wrong data, something like that, right? So when I test this, obviously if I follow what's in your code and I test this using Postman, if I manipulate something and send a bad request, it should trigger a 400 error, and you should have some kind of a message there, right? 404 obviously is for a not found. And then a 500 error is a internal server error. And I know I sent a note end of last week about it's probably best when you're catching these errors to, provide some information if that information is available, and don't just return a message internal server error, because that doesn't help, you as a developer figure out what's wrong, and it would not be. And also a lot of times some things will happen that would be returned to a user, which might not be technologically savvy to know what that means, right? So you kind of want to, if it's possible that you have that information there, you want to kind of go ahead and provide a little information so that can be deciphered on what the possible problem is. All right. So here, like for 5 points, using the correct port. So, you don't want to be using port 5000 or something else. It's you're going to lose points. You're going to lose 5 points if you don't use this port, right? It's just kind of how our hands-on tests are. It's about following directions. And probably the reason for that is when you're in the, you're working for an employer or something, you're going to be getting a list of requirements. There's going to be, it's going to be different than how our assignments are, but you're going to be getting a list of requirements from the project manager, your technical lead on the team, and you're going to get some requirements document, and you're going to have to follow that. And so that's what we're trying to do here. Is you got to make sure you may disagree with some things, but you kind of pretty much got to follow what is in the requirements document itself. Right here, all URLs must match route provided. So if it isn't, you're going to lose some points, et cetera here. And make sure you got your ENV file. And, we have talked about git ignore. So sometimes people will have that for their .env files. Because if you never really want to make that visible from a public standpoint, for our stuff, we're using private repositories just within Rankin. So ours are and plus what we have here is just these are not paid accounts. If for some reason your account got compromised, it's not the end of the world. It's not like what would happen, at a regular employer. If you've got something where you're, doing some side project for somebody, and the data is important, right? For here, this is just stuff for this course. It really isn't that important or private. There's no privacy issues and stuff like that. So make sure you don't include, and if you do have a git ignore file, make sure you don't include the .env file, because it won't check it in then. It won't commit it. So put all your database code logic in the database.js file. Use try catches, and you want to make sure you have a working front end. We basically use Vite get latest to create that, and then from there you're going to have to build that yourself. Just like we kind of did a bare bones one for the front end for the users and bugs, so you're going to kind of want to do something somewhat similar. Okay, let's see. Anything else in here? Returns all product. Make sure that you're returning a JSON array. Here it's talking about returning as a JSON object. All right, I'm not going to go through all those, every single thing here, but I just wanted to point out, you follow the rest of this. Just wanted to point out, make sure you follow the directions here. You want to make sure you have the right port number. You're using, so you're going to be creating some schemas, just like we did for our assignment that was due this past Sunday for Joy to validate the request data. All right, I guess that's about all I have on that. Okay. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and go through Labo 304 and some of the concepts with that. So this is just, we're using our existing repository issue tracker. And did want to mention, because some students have been a couple of students have been kind of committing things with lab directories. So you kind of got multiple versions of your bug and user. You really don't want to be doing that. The final project, you're supposed to just kind of, if there's a lab assignment that's part of the issue tracker, then you just want to update your current stuff, right? You want to update your current code with the new lab. So you're constantly updating that as you go along. We're not creating you don't want to be creating multiple versions of users and bugs and that, right? It's just a update, right? So a little different than what we've kind of done in other core classes, I know. But yeah, so this is just a continuous update of that final project. So, all right. So for this, we're going to be using some built-in search functionality. Okay, some built-in search functionality that is available in Mongo. Okay, and maybe I'll start out by showing you here. Well, let's look real quick there. I can show this later, maybe. So there's this .text operator. I'll show you this in a little bit here. But let me show you a Postman because I have something up and running already. So this assignment, this is kind of I'm going to be using my project that I'm kind of working on, my quiz maker project. So that's going to be a little different than yours. But, you know, I do have a user object and I'm kind of making it similar to what you guys are going to do. So just make it easier. But as you can see here, just want to point this out. I've got parms, query parms, right? Query parms obviously is different than sending data within the body, right? URL encoded. It doesn't go up here, right? It's just a part of a post request, right? It's a part of a request using the URL encoded form of the body of the request, right? It's basically the request object that comes. So the HTTP request, it's part of the body. But for this, we're going to be using parms here. And as you can see, I've got, these are kind of the different ones you're going to be using as well for the user list part. So like if I click key here, the keywords, you can see it put it up right here, the URL string. So all these parms are all going right up here, right? And it mentions in here they're optional. And when we're saying optional, it means that they don't have to be there. Okay, optional doesn't mean you don't have to code it, right? You have to code for all of the optional things. The optional, it might be there, it might not be there. You might just have a sort by, or you know, min age or a max age. Okay, a page size, a page number. Okay, and so these are all going to come in, you know, very. Eventually, when you got this all connected to your front end later on, when you're doing a lot more, you know, that way you can bring back the first page of, say, users. If you got, you know, 30, 40 users, you know, you don't want to have a big long page. You want to bring back maybe the first 10 users, and then they click on next, and it brings back the next 10 users, right? We do that, right? Pagination. That's called pagination, right? So here's kind of the basic things you're going to be doing. So make sure they're part of parms. Okay, and obviously this one here is get users. This is kind of the user list type thing. Mine's a little, my URL is going to look a little different because I'm just kind of doing things a little different. So don't let that confuse you. So this is basically, you know, very similar to your get users list that you're returning. Okay. Okay. Here I just kind of created my own little lecture document to go over some things here. Over here on the right hand side is code. Now this, like I said, this, don't get confused. This looks a little different than what you did because I've kind of got a different structure. I'm doing kind of a different type of a design pattern because there's different kinds of design patterns. I'm kind of doing like a model view controller where I've got models. I have a quiz model, I have a users model. I just have some things that are a little different. I have what's called controllers and that, okay? So don't let that confuse you, all right? Don't let that confuse you. But the basic functionality, so I'm going to be going over pretty much the user list type one for the lab. So here's the different query parameters, right? These query parameters are coming from basically here, right? Depends on what you have clicked and don't have clicked. So let me just actually go and, so in this case, by default, this is just going to sort everything. It's going to bring back, it's going to be using default values. And I think let's just take a look at our default values real quick. And so our default values are going to be, it's going to sort by given name. So it should be it's going to sort by given name, page size, and page number. So there should only be 5. I think I have about 15 users in here. And this can also be, you know, how I just earlier for the product stuff, I created some users. You know, you can write a prompt for LLM to make sure to create some of that mock data for your users once you got things in order, right? And always remember that you can always kind of go ahead and blow it away. If your data gets a little messed up, you can always delete your data from Mongo and rebuild it, recreate it again. You might have to do that, okay? Especially you're changing things, you change your mind about fields and that, your data gets kind of a little messed up, doesn't really reflect things. Don't feel like you're stuck with the data you started with. You can come back in, you can delete the data in your Mongo database and redo it again, right? It's probably beneficial to do that, especially if you start changing things, because then the records will be consistent, right? Your documents will be consistent. Because usually what you start with, you're learning things, you change things throughout. And like I said, sometimes those documents aren't going to reflect, and they might, in a lot of cases, they're not going to work when you're looking for certain things. So you may have to blow it away and start over. So, and that's probably a good you could use that Mockaroo, or you can go ahead and use an LLM, create some sample data, and that's a good way to kind of get started. Then you can always save those queries too. I'd save those queries off that you come back and use those again if you need to. But here I've got a given name, I got a page size of 5 and a page number of 1. And so in this case, I should be sorting by given name, should be the first one as far as sort by. And I should only have 5 on here. So let's see if this is working. I have nothing selected. So this is just going to be a default query. It's just going to come in here. These will be falsy values, right? This is just given name is going to be your default here. Obviously, if you did a sort by and gave it something else, it would change that. Here I got a page size of 5 being a default value and a page number of 1. Okay. So what we'll do eventually when you have your front end, you may, page number 2 is going to be the second list, right? Based on a sort functionality, right? Your second group of 5, right? In this case, it's going to be the first group of 5. Page 1, first 5, right? So let me see. Here I've got given name. Okay, let's see. It doesn't. Maybe I've changed something here. Let me run this again. Run this again. It probably is. And yeah, that's kind of interesting. I don't think that that's working quite like I thought it would be. Given name Henry. Given name Alex. All right. Let me use keywords Joe and Mary and do this. So here it's just going to return Joe and Mary. It's doing a search for Joe and Mary. Okay, here I'm going to sort by given name. Okay, and then so here you got a given name of Alex, Alice, Bob, Carol, and David. And these, as you can see, this is only the first 5. This is only the first 5. So if I want to change this to a page size, instead of 5, let's just change this to even a 2. So this should just return 2, right? 1, 2, right? Alex and Alice. Now, if I want to do a page number here, that was page 1. So this should return the same thing, and it does. Alex Brown and Alice. Okay. If I change this to 2, and I hit send, it's going to do the third and fourth one, right? It's every 2. So this is going to be the third one is Bob, the fourth one is Carol. Okay. Let's see what else I want to show here. And then obviously, so page size here. If I did page size of 10, this is going to override the default, which was 5. And this should return 10 of them. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yep, looks good. Okay, and let me show you this other functionality. And we'll look at the code here in a minute. So we've got minimum age. So most of these I kind of created this morning, so they're newer. But I had a few in here that were already here, probably from like last week. So I'm going to do minimum age of 1. And this is going to basically, it's going to create timestamps, dates out of these. But basically the minimum age is going to be, I'm basically saying 1 day old here. Okay, minimum age 1 day old. So this will just be the ones that are, let's see, I did do 15. So let me just do, so that returns them all. Page size of 20. It shouldn't return all 15 because I think I had 5 already. I created 10 new ones. That's what I did. So let me count this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I created 4 of them. So I created 4. So the minimum age is at least a day old. Okay. And so the ones I created today are not there. So I got 4. I'm going to have 14 total here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. It only returned 4 because my minimum age was 1. Okay. Now, if I change the minimum age to a 0, this is basically going to return everything that was already in the database plus everything I've created today. So basically, it's going to return everything. Okay. And so if I come in here, I'll see if I count them 2, there should be 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. So it returned all of them. Okay. It returned all of them. We could do min to max age, but yeah, that's probably not going to work good with. Once you get ones in with different dates in there, it's best obviously with, you know, a couple this week, a few next week, whatever. That way, you know, you could do a min and max together, where you could just basically all the ones start at 0 with a max of 2. So this is going to be anything up to a max of 2 days later, right? So all the new ones all the way up until 2 max age, right? Obviously, if you had something that was maybe 2, you don't want the newest, you want the ones from, you know, 2 days ago up until 4 days, up until the max age of 4 days, right? Min 2 up to 4, right? All right. So, but these are the basic parms we have for this first user list. And that's kind of how this will work. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the code here. All right. So let's look at the query parameters. And as we've seen that we had the request queries are going to actually put it within the URL string. And so here's our different query parameters. It's all coming from req.query as opposed to req.body, right? This is just building a, you know, default query object, okay? Here, this is the functionality that is available within the MongoDB, this $text, and let's take a quick look at that. And so all of this, you can go ahead if you need any. And there are some either example things too that you can come in here and look at as well on Mongo. But basically here it is, $text. This is a $text expression. This is, you know, basically available. And it includes a search parameter, language parameter, what language, case sensitive, etc. So, and these take Boolean. You don't really, for us purposes, we're only going to be really worrying about that, right? So text and string, or text and search. So in here, there you go. There's your $text, there's your $search, and go ahead and put the keyword. So if keyword, so we're using the truthy falsy thing. So basically, if keywords is there, right? If anything's there by default, this is going to be undefined, right? If you don't send anything, it's just going to skip this. If you put anything in your keywords, then it's going to go ahead and execute that. Here we got a role filter of role. And basically doing the same thing here. Yeah. Because, yeah, we're going to be building this query, okay? This is your basic text search. Here's your role filter, okay? And then we got age filters. So you're creating a new date, right? When you do a new date, it's just going to give you the current date, right? And we do max age. So if max age is truthy, if this max age has been passed, then you go ahead and do, let's make this a little bigger. Then you go ahead and do, you take the current date and you subtract the max age. So in our case, we're passing, 1 or 2 or whatever. And this is how you go ahead and create. You're creating a get time. See how you got get time here? This is actually creating the same. It's creating another get time. All right. It's creating another get time based on this and multiplying it by 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, okay, etc. And then you have to also multiply by milliseconds, so by 1,000 as well, okay. So then your query.date created is going to, if there is a value, if there's a value, if this actually created a value, then you use the date created. Otherwise, it's going to be empty, right? And here you're using your max age date. So you're saying, is my created date, greater than or equal to my max age date? And then here's the same thing using a min age date as well. But instead of greater than, you're using that less than for minimum age date. Okay. Then the next thing you kind of want to do is you want to create like a sort object. So we have our sort by. Let's go look. Okay, what do we have up here? Here's our sort by. We have a default to do given name. So obviously you can override this. You can override this from Postman. And so if this, obviously if you come in here, the default one, you also want to really do this. This is the default. So if the case is given name, this is the same actually as the default, okay? But here you got to sort by. If it equals family name, then you want to go ahead and sort in this like this, right? Date created. So this is what ascending order, right? Date created. Here is role. Now I called mine date created. I think depends on what you call yours. Okay, so sometimes you may use created on whatever date that you used, that you've been using. That's the one you want to use here. I have a date created, but yours may be different. So keep that in mind. You don't have to change it to be here. It's whatever that you had for your create date, whatever you called it. You could have had it created on or whatever you called it, okay? But for the most part, you probably have family name and given name, okay, etc. So also you have to have one for newest and oldest. So for newest, you're going to do date created -1. For the oldest, you're just going to be using a 1, right? And then here's your default one. All right. The next part of this is, pagination. So you have what's called a limit and a skip. And you go ahead and research that a little bit. So limit here, you're taking the page size. If the page size is greater than 0, right, then you're going to be using that page size that you passed in from, that you're going to be, that you passed in from Postman. Otherwise, you're going to be using 5. Okay, which is actually kind of also up here as well, but you know, you should at least, this isn't as necessary as, you probably should always make sure that you're at least doing it down. It's probably, might as well do it both places, but this will do the same thing. If it's empty or something, right? If this is if this is, you know, doesn't have a value, it's going to use 5. Okay, and then you've got skip, right? And then so the same thing here. Whatever page number you select, page number -1, and the reason you do a -1 is because it's kind of like a zero-based type thing, right? So it's a zero-based, and you're going to multiply that by the limit. Okay, you multiply that by your limit. Okay. So here's basically your query, your complete query here. You're doing a, now mine's a little different. You really want, you know, mine might be a little different here than what you're used to seeing. Okay. You probably should be doing your stuff in your database file. It's kind of a little different than this model view controller thing that I have set up here. So maybe a little different, but you're going to want to be calling a function. You're going to be calling a function that's in your database.js file, your database function you have defined in there. Okay, but here it's basically, you know, you're sending in a query with a sort, a skip, and a limit. Okay, and then that whole object, you're going ahead and send that in user. So you have your query, your sort, your skip, your limit. Even if you didn't put any data in there, you're still having it. You're still going to send everything in there, right? If it's it'll use the default values if they're default. If there's not anything there, then it's going to skip those ones because especially they're optional, right? Okay. Let's see. You'll be using various operators. So for sorting, you're going to do .sort, obviously. Use the .sort method to order results based on specific fields and directions, ascending or descending. The assignment emphasizes stable sorting by including additional fields to break ties. Okay. Pagination, you got your .skip and your limit. Limit restricts the number of documents, returned per page, controlled by the page size. That's why we multiply that together. Okay. .skip skips a specified number of documents, effectively moving to the next page. Right. And we can take another look at that. So here we got let's make this something realistic. It's like a small 2 and then a page number 2. So that's why when you do 1, and like I said, it's zero based. That's why you had to do the -1 within your code. It's going to be zero based. So in your code, basically this is the first page. So this just return the first 2. And then you had let's see, we want to sort by given name. So Alex was the first one, and Alice is the second one. Okay, so that was our sort by. We're sorting by given name. And then, how many did this return? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it helps if I select them. So 1, 2, there's your first 2. Then you go ahead and go to your second page. You know, we kind of already looked at this. But basically what it's doing, it's skipping. So say, hey, let's skip the first page and get the next 2. So it's just how it kind of works within MongoDB. So you skip the first two, and you're getting the next two, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So one thing you want to make sure that you do is you create your index. And this is called a wildcard index. And so a wildcard index will help you with a MongoDB wildcard index allows you to create a text index on all string fields within a collection. So even if you don't know the field names in advance, okay. So this is just basically gives you, you don't necessarily have to know this this is a internal MongoDB like you just did the dollar text, right? So this is the wildcard for that. Okay, that's the wildcard for that. And so basically, it's giving you even if you haven't even entered putting in any data in your database yet. Okay. So even if you don't know the field names in advance, it will actually create an index on all your string fields within a collection. Okay. So that's one thing you want to take and run this. You want to make sure that you run these index commands in Mongo. And so when I can go in there, oh, I don't have it up. I'm not gonna. I'd have to log in. Okay, but you'll have to run the different index commands for the different scenarios, and I think I have that kind of down here. I'll talk about that a little bit. So this one, okay, this one's for bugs here. So you're going to do the same thing for bugs as users, all right? And it depends on what you called your. So here's one for create date for bugs. I'm not going to go through all the bug stuff. You guys could spend some time going through that yourself. But here's one for create at. Depends on what you called it. It could have been created on, create date, whatever you created, whatever you called your date, your creation date. Okay. This one's doing one on title. This is create an index on title. So title first, then create date. So if you basically, if you have two titles, it's going to give you the first one, then it's going to use the second one, right? Classification, assign to and create it by. Right, and obviously you might have called these things a little different as well. But here's the ones for the bugs, and I guess I probably skipped over the users one. This is the basic one for the wildcard. So it's the same exact one as the bug one. So you're going to want to do that both on both collections. And then obviously, within Mongo, within Compass, you can actually go and look and you'll be able to see the different indexes. There is a tab to see that in Compass. But for create date, and like I said, depends on what you called yours, but you want to create an index. And obviously here it says users. You might, I don't think everybody used a plural for users for their collection, but I think most did. But this is how you do create an index for given, for the given name, family name, and created date. Here's one for family name. If you want to, right? If you're going to sort by family name first, you're going to sort by family name first, then given name. So obviously, if you had two different Jones, you had Alex Jones and a Tom Jones. So the Alex Jones would be returned first before the Tom Jones because the second parameter would kick in. First, you're sorting by this one, then you're sorting by that one. So then that one would take care of that. All right. Okay. Not sure if there's anything else to cover here. So that's all I have for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will do a little separate video for the hands-on test. Just kind of the initial setup, just because probably didn't do it a lot of times. I'm just basically doing the Vite stuff to create it. Then then you want to go ahead in your root database and do that. So I'll do a little initial video just to kind of get you started, and then from there you can go ahead and finish the rest of the hands-on test. Thanks a lot and have a good day.